Hi everyone, this is David Wicks coming to you live from my home on Saturday, re-recording the Thursday night live broadcast from the second week of our course. We had some technical difficulties during this second recording, and even though we were able to pull it together and finish on Thursday, the recording had enough issues that I thought I'd just re-record for those of you that didn't hear it live, or for those of you that wanted to listen to parts of it again or watch parts of it again. So here we go. Uh, what we're going to cover includes ISTE standard number 1 for teachers, ISTE International Society for Technology Education, and the NETS is National Educational Technology Standards, and we're going to look at standard number 1 today, and then we're going to see examples from each of the performance indicators for standard 1. And then at the end I'll answer questions that appeared in the chat during the broadcast, and I summarized those, so if I have left any out, please remember you can always go to the discussion board and ask questions. So here is standard 1, and if you want to look at the standards, you can always go to the ISTE website. That's just http://ISTE.org, and there's a link there for standards, and you can find the teacher standards. These standards were updated. They were originally came out around 2000 and were updated in 2008. And here is standard 1 from 2008, facilitate and inspire student learning and creativity. And so in this standard, teachers will use their knowledge of subject matter, teaching and learning, and technology to facilitate experiences that advance student learning, creativity, and innovation in both face-to-face and virtual environments. The A, B, C, and D are the performance indicators that we'll be looking at. And do note that it's both for face-to-face and virtual environments. In many cases, I'm showing you free online tools that can be used in the classroom or can be used with students in a virtual environment. We're seeing more and more fully online K-12 environments, and we're also seeing growth in blended environments. There was an article just this week about a private school in New York that had a snow day, and because all of the students in this private school are issued laptops, when they have a snow day now, it isn't the traditional day off. The teachers teach virtually and share things, and so they continue on and have a day even though the students are not able to come to class. We are seeing with various schools using virtual tools so that students have access to recordings outside of class. They have activities that they can work on outside of class. Many schools are keeping textbooks in the classroom and providing students with access to digital versions of those textbooks at home. And so we've got a whole series of issues when this comes up. We begin to look at things like digital divide issues, those students who possibly don't have access to the internet at home or don't have a high-speed internet connection, or maybe their access is primarily through mobile devices. So a teacher could communicate with them through text, through email, but not provide web activities. And then when we're talking about things like texting or social media resources, even email, some districts are now questioning whether teachers should be communicating one-to-one with students outside of the classroom. So for example, the state of Virginia is currently considering a law that would ban teachers from being Facebook friends or texting with students. And we'll get into some of those types of issues later when we're covering this standard that specifically addresses that issue. But for now, we want to go ahead and take a look at these performance indicators and provide some examples. The first performance indicator is promote, support, and model creative and innovative thinking and inventiveness. And I want to point out here that as you're working to provide resources to your peers, you may have a completely different interpretation of what the standard is addressing than your peers. And so I just caution you when you look at what other people have shared, you might immediately think, wow, I maybe missed the point here because I've got something completely different. And I think because we're coming from different disciplines, we're teaching students of different ages. We have people in the class who are teaching primarily adults, teaching professionals, and we have people that are teaching students who are new to school. And so because of this, we'll have different interpretations of these. And I'm kind of showing that on this very first one because I'm giving you two very different examples. So one that I think we're looking at is this idea of social reading, social reflection using e-readers. And we're doing this with Amazon, with the Kindle, and I'm thinking that we're modeling this way to have students maybe think and share outside the box of what's traditionally expected. And so we're doing that through having people highlight and make notes in their Kindle e-reader, and then we're seeing the public version of those and being able to comment on what other people either highlighted or made as notes. Now, one of the resources that I want to share here is a site called Copia. And so with Copia, it is a social reading site. And so you could actually put in to Copia, if you went to thecopia.com, you could add your books that you are reading, and then you can actually interact with someone else who is actually reading that same book. So for example, here's this book, Shoeless Joe. If you would open that particular book, in the same way that we're sharing notes, you could be doing that with people who are also reading that same book. And so this is somewhat of a social network, a Facebook, an online reading club, as somebody pointed out, book club, somebody pointed out on the live session of our Thursday Night Live meeting. And you can see if you look down here, I have the Teaching with Digital Natives, and I'm going to click on that. And what I want you to see here is, one, it allowed me to tell me that I finished it. It would allow me to go through and give it a rating, but what you also should note here is that it's not for sale. And so one of the challenges we have with this whole e-reading notion is that we as teachers might be restricted from which text we choose based on a particular reader that we're interested in. And so I initially was interested in using this application for our course, but when I started to look through and see some of the possible text we could use, I wasn't at this time happy with the availability of ones that I would have been interested in using. And so in that case, I just decided that I would not do that. I went the Amazon route. But anyway, that's one of the challenges that you as a teacher would face. Okay, so let's also then look at a second resource here. So if we come back to the presentation, we see Lego Mindstorm, and you could go to the Lego Mindstorm website, but I've taken you to a blog that's on Lego Mindstorm. If you're not familiar with Lego Mindstorm, the company Lego provides hardware and the programming platform that makes it possible for people to build and program robots. And so there are clubs popping up in schools. There are robotics classes popping up in schools. There's competitions that are taking place where people are actually um, using these robots to help kids be more creative, innovative, and definitely inventive, demonstrate their inventiveness as they share their ideas. So if we take a look quickly at this blog, um, you can see that it's, if we scroll down a little bit, people are sharing their particular examples, and I'll let you go to this on your own. But you could see that if we clicked on this one for the Lego octopus, we're actually seeing where someone has actually shared uh, their ideas of a robot, and I've had this playing already, so we'll see. So you can watch the robot actually as it's been programmed to walk around, and the person will explain what they've done and how they did it, and other people are interested in that. And then there's all sorts of kits that are available, and like I say, there's leagues, there's clubs that are popping up where kids are getting interested in this, and it's adults as well. But it's definitely something that I'm hearing from parents that they're telling me that this might be the activity that their student gets involved in, that they didn't have really an interest in school until something like this popped up. Also, have heard that these clubs try to integrate other disciplines, so they may, for example, take on a social issue, let's say AIDS, and so somehow the robotics competition, they're building robots that somehow will have the students learn about the AIDS crisis, and in some way these robots are addressing that. Now, it's a little bit of a stretch for me to imagine what they're exactly doing, but this is what I'm hearing people tell me, is that they've set them up to not just have these kids work on programming, but they're also coming up with some other issue that they're having to learn about as they program them. And I believe even at the competitions, and students are having to answer questions about the topics that they've been asked to build robots to address some issue with. Okay, so let's jump back, and we'll go on to our second one. And in the live session, I asked people to share some of their resources, and obviously you've shared them on the resource list, so we've got that. And I apologize for not including those at this time, because people in the live session did a good job of sharing some of the things that they had presented on the discussion board. The second performance indicator, engage students in exploring real-world issues and solving authentic problems using digital tools and resources. In the live session, I mentioned a coming resource. There's an organization in Seattle called choices.org that is specifically about providing students with a curriculum that helps them make good choices while they're in school, so that they have lots of choices available to them when they get out of school. And they're designing a game that they feel will help kids make good choices. And so I got to visit their office and talk about this game. And the reason I bring it up is, if you are possibly interested, I think it's middle school age to high school age students. If you, as a teacher, think that might be a fit for your students, or you would like to provide them feedback on a tool like this, they're going to be looking for beta testers. And so if you're interested in this, let me know and I can get you more information. But what I did find just recently was a game that's similar to this, and that's a game called SMOKESCREEN. And so if we come back to the web here, and this is from the UK, and it's actually created by a television station. So I'm not exactly recommending this to anyone, but I'm seeing it as a possible idea. There's other things like this out there, so I just ask you to keep your eyes open. But in this particular one, if we just go to the About section, uh, it's the game is all about uh, students and their online social life. So things that are happening in things like Facebook, or excuse me, MySpace or Facebook. I don't think there's anything called Spacebook yet, but uh, possible situations that people get themselves into, and then somewhat of a simulation of on how to deal with those situations, something like cyberbullying. And so if you come to the site, you can set up a authentication and log in. This second web trailer, if you want to watch it, would give you a decent idea. In looking at the frequently asked questions page, it does indicate that there's some mild profanity. They say it would be in the U.S. PG-13. So I'm not thinking that this is probably something that as a teacher that you would use as a curriculum per se, but I do think we should keep our eyes open for resources like this that are addressing real world things that are happening to people and putting students in a situation where they can solve problems. Another one that's listed here is freerice.com. This one's been around for a while. If you're not familiar with Free Rice, it is simply just you go to the game and and you might look at it at first and just think this is pretty rote. There's just like multiple choice questions, but when you take a look at it, it's actually quite clever and really I think exciting because they're um, not just providing students with an opportunity to maybe work on their, in this case, English vocabulary. So this could be second language learners. This could be younger students, depending on the subject. But then they're also have an opportunity to make a difference socially because they're for every right question they get, they're providing 10 grains of rice for someone in the world. And so they list an example at the bottom where they've have students learn about how all the questions they answered helped Haiti. So the way this works basically is the website has sponsors, and the sponsors agree to provide money to purchase the rice based on the number of questions that are answered correctly. So you can take a look at this. You can change the subjects. So there's lots of different things. So those of you that thought this was just about language, somebody's put together chemistry, geography. There's math topics, and some foreign language learning, and even art. And I think this is probably a growing list. So I would encourage you to just check it out. And again, keep your eyes open for similar types of tools where someone is solving or helping with a social issue by having kids use, even in this case, a very rote or simple technology in the class or outside of the classroom. So C in our performance indicators says promote student reflection using collaborative tools to reveal, clarify students' conceptual understanding, thinking, planning, creative processes. So a mind mapping tool, I shared a resource in the in Blackboard that listed some different mind mapping software. There's a lot of free mind mapping software out there now, so should be able to take advantage of this. And Bubble.us is a good resource that's been around for a while, and it's gotten better. People can actually log in and have it save things. But the nice thing that I like about it is you can just start brainstorming, and so you can just click on it and you can just begin. So if you were having students write and you wanted them to first map out what they were going to do, then you can actually have them start here. If they're going to solve some kind of problems and you want them to think through that process, it can be done here. So we can put together just helping them think logically. Okay, so if I was going to have students create a sandwich, then I can click and have a new child bubble, and maybe the question is what kind, and then have it again come up with some different opportunities here. So I'm clicking this little tab one, the little side one, to get some different possibilities. I'm going to give it one more side one here if I can click the right thing. Okay, there we've got 3, and I can click and drag these apart, but I could put ham sandwich, chicken, okay, so I've got peanut butter, ham, and chicken. So I think you get the general idea with this. I've got the ability then with these particular tools to drag them around, and we could create this decision tree here where we could help students look at things logically, and when they're finished with it, it would allow them to print it, they could export it, and they can save it. And all of this is done without them having to log in, other than if they do want to create like a group of them that they can keep coming back and editing online. But if you had computers in your classroom and you just wanted students who are working on a project together or individually writing a story, and you wanted them to think through it logically first, they could go put together their little concept map and print it, or save it out to a zip or flip a USB drive, and then go from there. So anyway, I think you get the general idea of this tool, and we'll move on to our next one. So our next tool is EduBlogs, and I think when we're looking at this, we want to promote student reflections. We're using a collaborative tool. We're helping students to think through it, and that's what we're doing with WordPress and our blogging tools. And EduBlog would be a tool that you could use with your students. So here's EduBlog. We could have used EduBlog as a tool for SPU blogging. There can be a cost to it, but I think this is a good resource to look at. I'm just taking you to the Why EduBlogs page, and you could go through this and look at how you can do it. But it is something, and it's actually based on the WordPress platform. So those of you that have been using WordPress, if you wanted to use this with your students, you could do that as well. So anyway, that's a resource for you. And then finally, the performance indicator D is model collaborative knowledge construction by engaging in learning with students, colleagues, and others in face-to-face and virtual environments. And so when I'm thinking of collaborative knowledge construction, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the use of wikis. And I think there are a number of wiki tools out there, but probably my two favorite are Google Sites and Wiki Spaces. And so Google Sites, both of these can be free for K-12 teachers and other educators. Wiki Spaces, if you want to use it, I believe outside of K-12 education, you have to agree that the wiki that you create will be shown publicly. Doesn't mean you have to let other people edit it, but it'll be shown publicly. If you're not familiar with wikis, the term means, it's a Hawaiian term for quick, and a person from the Seattle area actually came up with the concept of wikis as being this collaborative website where you could easily have multiple people work together on a website without having to know a lot of technical information about building websites. And so I'm just going to show you quick examples of both of these that I've seen. And then I think these are, well, I've seen, the first one is one I'm working with. But if we go, something that I'm working on right now with a couple of colleagues is we're creating a webinar called Twitter in Education. That is for it's talking about the use of Twitter for teaching, learning, professional development, and higher education. And so this is this Google site that you're seeing here is one that we're using as the website for this online workshop that we're doing. And so we're collaborating. Each of us is logging in and editing the links and the other information on this website. And we're not having to use any programming language. We're not using HTML or anything else. We're just basically editing pages. So you can see if we click on different links that there are different resources here. Okay, this just gives you an idea about that. The other wiki tool, this is one that's primarily been created by a single individual. If we go over on the left side and click on the About Me page, you can learn more about Andrew Churches, who's from New Zealand, who happens to be the person who is primarily responsible for this particular wiki. But he's spent a lot of time putting together resources for educators on digital technology and really 21st century learning. So I'm showing you this for two reasons. One is that you can come to this wiki and see what a wiki is all about, an educational wiki, but also that you there's a lot of resources here. This may be a place where you come to find some of the resources that you want to share with our class. I'd also point out that most of the time on wiki tools, they provide some kind of a discussion area so that people can actually talk about what's on the page and possibly make edits. So here you're seeing where people have actually discussed topics that Mr. Churches is sharing and have provided feedback, and in some cases are also probably editing the pages themselves. So you can just get an idea of how powerful a wiki tool can be. You can use wiki tools with your students. You could have them work together on a Google site, and we're actually in one of our projects coming up, we'll actually be using Google Sites. So you'll see that in action, and you'll be able to decide if that's something that would work for collaborative projects with your students. Okay, I'd like to shift now into just answering some questions that people had about or during the Thursday night live session. And so the first one is, how do we look at other people's highlights on the Amazon Kindle site? Well, that's a challenge in one way, in that when we're looking at it, okay, and I'm just going to go, and this is kindle.amazon.com. If you go there, and you'll have to log in the first time you go there, and it's just your Amazon login, but I've already logged in here, and I like that it shows me when I first log into this, it gives me like a review. I can review a book that I'm reading, and it just gives me one of my highlights or notes that I shared, and it's giving me a chance to think about it again, and if I wanted to go there, I could actually go to that location in the book. But if we click on the Your Books portion of this, and we go down to the book that we're reading, which is Teaching Digital Natives, so I'm going to click on that link. We'll see here that it's showing us, and we can see that right now it's saying your highlights only. So these are my highlights. I'm seeing both what I've highlighted, and I'm seeing my notes, any place that I've made a note. Okay. And if you want to see all, you'll click this link all. And again, you have to be logged in to see this the way that I'm seeing it. If you didn't log in to kindle.amazon.com, you would see it as someone who's just coming as a visitor. And so while I'm on this page, I am seeing other people's highlights, and I'm seeing notes as well. So I see this one that I made, what is partnering, and I'm seeing one that's what students find most valuable. Now, you won't know whose these are, so they might not even be people in our class, but you will see highlights and notes. And so when you're referencing these as part of your blog post, the question really comes up is are we, how do we know whose quote we're, or whose note are we citing? And I think we're just going to have to say that it's anonymous. So we can't know who these are from. I don't really want anybody to like put their name in this, so we'll just leave it to anonymous if you want to say that. But I'm really looking for you to say something to the effect of, okay, here's a quote here, and if that was one, it was it's listed there. Okay, let me switch that. Here's one that was highlighted by 11 users. Well, maybe I wasn't one of those 11 who found this valuable, but in going back and looking at it, I now read this and think, oh, that helps me understand something else, so I can reference that quote plus talk about how it's maybe made a difference. That's really what I'm looking for from you. So hope that clarifies that question. So then the next question said, when we post from Kindle, how do we see the results? So again, when you actually are going through and making notes and highlighting, when you finish, then you go to the kindle.amazon.com, that's when you will see the highlights and notes that you've made. Now, if you have a Kindle device, you might need to go into the settings and tell it that you want to share the notes. It might only save them on your Kindle device initially. I don't really have a video way to show you that right now, but if you have more questions about that, I can ask if you still aren't seeing that. What is important, if we come back and go look at our books again, is when we see our books, this part here, this private or public, if you don't make that public, then anybody who's looking at, anyone who, you would still see your own, but other people won't see yours in the public side of the house. So please do make yours public. Again, they're anonymous, so no one will know which are exactly yours. The third question says, we have our first e-reader post due the 16th. how do I include the link to the public highlights page in your post so other readers can see firsthand what is being done? Okay, so when we're back on that page, if I click again on this link to go in and look at Prensky's book, and if right now it is on the all highlights page. If I select this URL, if I copy this URL right now and paste it into my my blog post, that particular URL for anyone who's logged in, it will take them to the to this page exactly. For anyone who is not logged in, it will take them to a page where it lets them see a sample of the highlights. And that's as good as we can do, and it makes sense that way. Anybody who owns the book gets to see all highlights and participate, and someone who doesn't own the book gets to just see a sample. So that's all I'm expecting you to do there. The fourth question says, if they're anonymous, how is our class going to know what we highlighted and commented on? So again, on this one, really, in your blog post, you'll be referencing an anonymous post. I think the possible question here might be, how do I know that you made yours public, or how do I know that you're even doing this? Well, to be honest with you, I don't. I'm asking you to do this, expecting you to do it, and if somebody, you hear all the time now with the cost of textbooks, students just choose not to read the textbook, and they pick up what the text actually said by either talking with other students or notes because the book is just covered in class. Well, we're not really, we'll talk some about the book, but we're not, I'm not lecturing on the book, so you wouldn't pick that up. But, I'm hoping you'll do this. I think you understand the purpose behind it, and so I'm counting on you to do that. But there won't be any case where you really are having to, like, somebody made a really great note. We'll just attribute it to anonymous. Because we won't know. Let's see. Next question, number 5. I downloaded the free Amazon app. When I opened it, does it automatically load the internet access? So if you are online, it doesn't start your internet connection. But if you're online, then it should upload automatically. It should let you anything you highlight should be found in the section that is showing your highlights. You should see those right away. So if that's not taking place, let me know and we can see maybe what's going on there. I have made contact with Amazon, made sure they knew we were doing this. You should see that I posted a message on the discussion board, or excuse me, on the announcements, where they gave me general tips, because I've had a couple of people with PCs say they had issues. So we want to get those resolved as quick as possible, and hopefully everybody will have a good technical experience with this. And in other words, no technical problems, no crashing, no lost bookmarks. That isn't at all part of this experience. But then whether you really enjoy reading online or not, or you find it liberating, that's going to be what you're possibly talking about in your blog. Okay, the last question on this page regarding the syllabus: is the e-reader assignment listed under projects the same as the assignments under e-book reading? Yes. I realize now that the way I put that in there, it looks like 2 separate assignments, but it isn't. For every chapter, you're highlighting, you're making notes, and then once a week you're blogging about your experience reading a book using an e-reader, as well as your thoughts about the Prinsky book itself. So keep those two things in mind as you're going through it, as you're reading, and then once a week you'll blog about that. So that hopefully will clear that part up. And then here's some more questions. What is due on Sunday? So this is the Sunday the 16th, I believe. So blog post chapter 1 and blog post for standard 1, and 2 posts on WordPress. Yeah, so the way this works, let's actually go to the course here. And let's just come up to the announcements. Oops, not the announcements, information. And let's look at, first we'll look at the schedule. Okay, so here's the schedule. And so we're this week 2 is where we're at. And so by the 16th, you should have gone to the discussion board and commented on someone else's resource. So if you go back and look at the syllabus, it will explain what you should take into consideration as you're commenting on someone else's resource. And then you also, by the 16th, you should have read chapter 1 and had a blog post. Now, if you're having technical problems, that deadline doesn't apply to you. We got to get that figured out first. So be in touch with me if you've had technical problems with the book. But otherwise, you should be doing that blog post. Now, there are also some of you who aren't in one of the programs using blogs. And if you still have questions on setting up your blogs, let me know, and we'll get you straightened out on that. And then the other things that are due, you should be reading chapter 2, but you're not going to post anything yet. And then this talks about the e-reader project beginning, but that e-reader project is actually what's in this column. Okay, so the e-reader project started on the 9th, but it's actually this. So this probably shouldn't have just been there. That's confusing to see that. Okay, and then your standard 1 blog post, and here it tells you between January 16th and 23rd. The key here is I don't want you until the 16th to consider writing that blog post. And actually probably the 17th would be better, but after the 16th, really, if you write it on the 16th, great, but I want you to have read everything that happened on the discussion board around standard 1 before you go ahead and make that blog post. And then and anything by the 16th, I don't want you to have to wait for anything that's late, but something that's happened by the 16th, I want you to at least have read that before you decide what you're going to write about there. And then for sure by the 24th, you should have that blog post up there. And I think the next question in our list comes up. The syllabus says standard 1 blog post isn't due until January 4th. So I wrote in the syllabus the 24th, and in the schedule I said it was between the 16th and 23rd. So I apologize for that. And so the 24th is really, I guess the deadline for that, since I've given you different dates. But for me personally, the key is that you don't do it before the 16th, because I want you to consider all the ideas shared first. Okay. The question 9, is it possible to put all our blogs on a page flake so we can access them more easily? Yes, I will. I'm going to actually use NetVibes instead of page flakes, so I'll share that resource with you. I'm a big fan of page flakes, but they recently just went offline for almost a month, and so I'm not sure if they're having financial problems, but the NetVibes seems to do everything page flakes does, and they seem to be a little more, they seem to be currently working on the project. They keep adding new things, and I haven't seen anything new with page flakes for a while, so I'm a little concerned that it might be a company that won't be around much longer. So what the heck is a page flake? Well, page flake is a technology that allows you to put like feeds from blog posts on a page so they show up like headlines. So you'll see that when I share the Net Vibes page. Question 10: do we look at one person's blog posting and reply to them? Yeah, I'm still forming. I'm looking through now the introductions. I think they're almost all up, and I'm um, I'm wanting to group you and have teams or blogging buddies who can work together, so that you're not necessarily having to look at everybody's blog posts, but you have somebody who has a similar passion, in the same discipline that you're in, same grade level, same professional teaching experience. So I'll have that. I'm working on that this weekend, and I'll have that up for you. And then somebody said, can we find our own blogging buddy? Well, if it doesn't work out, if you see the groups and you're thinking that somebody's left out who's really critical, somebody you feed off of, then we can have a talk. You can email me privately, but because we're fully online, I don't want you to find your own groups, because it's easy to leave someone out in an online environment, because we just can't see everybody that's in the room and know that somebody needs to be included. So I'll get this process started so that we don't leave anybody out. And then 13, is there a way to show all of the resources on a single page rather than having them open each message? So I'm going to show you how this looks. I'm just going to go and take you into a pretend course in Blackboard. So I'm going into the discussion board, and here's a sample forum. So if I click on the link for that forum, okay, you can see that I'm actually the only person that's participating in this forum, but we see these resources listed here. And so the question is really, can I, rather than having to click individually on each of these to see them, is there a way to see, especially if there's 20 or more on a page, is there a way for me to see them all? Well, if you click on this checkbox here, it actually checks everything, okay? So once you've done that, and there might possibly be some that you don't want, so you could uncheck them if you didn't want a few of them, but let's just say we want them all, so we check this box. And then if you click on this collect, it collects them all. So they're all now open and showing on this page. So someone who wanted to, for example, just have all these to keep for later, could be selecting them, and I'm just dragging across them all. Okay. And could copy and paste that into a document. Now you're going to get some of the extra stuff on there, but maybe you don't care. Maybe it's just a faster way for you to have access to all our resources. Okay, so that collect feature, you can use that when you're reading discussion posts too. It saves you some clicks. All right, I think that's it. So if you have any comments or questions for me, please do email me and let me know, or excuse me, the better way would be post the questions you have on the discussion board so others can benefit from those. But if you have a private issue, if it's something that is only pertaining to your work in the course, then please do send that to me as an email, or if you want to call and set up a meeting or talk by phone, I'd love to visit with you or meet you in person. Have a great day.